ensemble members, in addition to their regular core classes, 2 hours every weekday. They come together in Oaks building over there, a dance studio, wherever we could find space, and we just started creating stuff. Ensemble, which is a very key word, and is a word that Viewpoints is completely based in. The idea that a group of many different parts, different people from many different places can come together and through a certain technique, through a certain body of ideas, can create a really dynamic new piece of work together, and it doesn't necessarily require a script. Speaking of scripts, if you came here today expecting a play per se, that's not exactly what this is. This is more of a type of, I'm not even going to call it rehearsing, because you wouldn't really want to rehearse the Hamlet using this. It wouldn't necessarily work out too well, but it would kind of be like a precursor to rehearsal. You would use this form of training for an ensemble to come together and find their strengths, their weaknesses, where people like to listen. Do people listen more visually? Do they listen more auditorially? Do they listen with a sense of touch? And so this is a great place, a starting place for a new ensemble to start to grow. And I think it's one of the most dynamic methods of training I've encountered that approaches acting from not so much a psychological perspective, although that can easily be integrated into this, but it approaches it from looking at the outside world, the environment, the architecture of the space, the physical people in the space who in themselves become a sense of an architecture in the room, and then drawing from that and then letting that affect the interior. This training is born out of my experience at the SITI Company in Saratoga Springs, New York. SITI, which stands for Saratoga International Theatre Institute, was founded in 1993 by Anne Bogart and Tadashi Suzuki, a Japanese theatre artist. And it is truly an international theatre company. They wanted something that combined Suzuki, which I'll talk a little bit more about later, a very physically oriented, very strict, almost martial art-like regimen, with the sort of physical improvisation and collaborative nature of Viewpoints. And so these two theatre artists came together and they created the SITI Company. And this company of actors, this core company, many of them have been together now since 1993. Some of them are married to each other. I mean, they are truly a very tight ensemble. They are family. I had the great fortune to study with them not this past summer, but summer of 2009 in New York. And during 4 weeks there, my perception of theatre and how theatre could be created was totally radically altered. And I realized that there are so many different paths to get to a place, and sometimes it's more useful to think about, well, how can I make something instead of worrying about editing it before it's even created. I think so oftentimes, and Anne Bogart's the first to mention this, it's important to distinguish creation and analysis as two separate processes, and they're both equally valuable to the theatre artist. Training is very dynamic, very physical. I think it's a great way for a young company or a company of people who are fresh, especially regional theatres. This is very useful for people who may have come from all over the country, may have never even met or worked with each other before, and you can create something really quickly. The other thing that's so wonderful about Viewpoints and this entire training is that it really breaks past the language barrier. I was working with people from Japan, Colombia, Brazil, Sweden, Australia, Canada. I mean, I think probably about a third of them, their first language wasn't English. And of that, half of them could speak almost no English at all. So we really had to look past traditional verbal communication to create a bond and create work quickly. So all of these things are found within the Viewpoints. And we're going to start off tonight by showing you one of the first introductory exercises in Viewpoints, which is a sun salutation, which is, yes, they're getting ready. And sun salutations are found in yoga, and this is kind of an adaptation of that. And what everyone wants to do is, starting in the same position and hopefully the same breath, they will move together through 12 sun salutations, alternating between their right and their left feet, and try to stay in perfect synchronization with each other throughout. And if one of them moves a little faster, a little slower, the group has to try and find a way to find each other in that happy medium, I'll call it. Now, one of the tricks they can use to find this balance with each other is something called soft focus. And soft focus is very different from how we're usually used to seeing and walking through the world. We think, I'm going to move there, and so we look specifically there. When we're talking to someone, we look at them in their eyes or in the center of their face. But with soft focus, by looking into the middle of the circle, the group can see everything that's on the fringes on the outside. They can see out to there, and ideally that gives them information where they can not only take in the space, but they can also take in each other and make adjustments in the moment as is needed. So with all that in mind, this group is now going to try and find the circle together in 12 sun salutations. Please give them a round of applause. And as you watch them, you realize that there comes a point where you kind of have to rely on more than just a sense of sight. There's a point where everyone's going to be looking down. You really have to start listening with different senses. And to prove that point, now they have divided up into 3 groups, and they're going to do 2 more sun salutations, once back on their right leg, then back on their left leg, only this time they're going to do it with their eyes closed. Taking care of the group. That's extraordinary listening. Please give them a round. He walks, which we'll show you in a moment. And by focusing on that point, they almost imagine that they are looking into the next room. But by focusing on that point, it also allows them to see out of their entire periphery. And using that point to draw them forward through the space, it really creates a very dynamic tension between the need of the actor to move consistently within this rigid, almost martial art-like movement, but also giving a sense of what I would call stage presence. And it's a really beautiful technique, and training in both Viewpoints and Suzuki for an hour and a half each day, oftentimes at Saratoga Springs, it was very interesting to see how the two would balance each other out. So we got to a point where I wasn't always sure which training I was drawing on more in the moment. So what we're going to show you first of all is something called Suzuki sitting statues. And for the sake of starting off, we're just going to have 3 basic positions. So guys, I'm going to ask you to show them the 3 basic positions. I'm just going to call them out in order right now. So and right now everyone is in what we would call a ready position. They're ready to leap into action, whatever that action may be. So guys, show them position number 1. And return. Position number 2. And return. And position number 3. And return. And the fascinating thing about this is not only does it require an internal sense of focus, but it also requires amazing physical balance. And one of the things about Suzuki and Viewpoints is that I think a lot of what Anne Bogart and the SITI Company talk about is which comes first, the thought or the physical reaction. And I feel that a lot of them would argue the body always leads. If someone drops a plate and there's a crash, something which we will call kinesthetic response occurs, and you'll look around. If someone's cell phone were to go off in the audience, everyone will go, oh, that person. Your body reacts before you process what has actually happened. And so by drawing on this sense of focus, I think it's a really useful tool for training actors to be ready for anything, because you know anything can occur in a live performance. So what we're going to do now is we're going to alternate between positions 1, 2, and 3. So I'm going to call out the positions, and I'm also going to pound the wood or the wall, the side of this stage. And each time I call out the position, they need to try to jump to it as fast as they can and then return to a ready position. 2. Return. 1. Return. 1. Return. 3. Return. 2. Return. And now each time I hit the side of the ball, they're just going to alternate between any of the 3 positions that they see fit. called the flow, which is a very useful way that actors, in the beginning stages of Viewpoints, to find themselves in the space. They're also listening incredibly well. Kinesthetic response. And they're repeating what the others are doing, sometimes. There's always a choice. The beauty of Viewpoints is that it gives you the option of choice. You can have your solo and you can have your group ensemble dance. By really listening, by really letting your physical impulses be directed by what else might be going on in the room, actors open themselves to all kinds of possibilities, playing with tempo and duration. If someone runs past you, do you suddenly go awfully still, quiet? Do you speed up yourself? Do you follow them? All kinds of options present themselves.
I'm amazed and know not what to say. Join at the hands and join at the heart.
The actors can start applying these same principles to vocal viewpoints, which could be just about anything.
With 2 pitch balls stuck in her face for eyes. I'm amazed. You know not what to say. Join at the hand. Join at the heart. With 2 pitch balls stuck in her face for eyes. Now join the hands with the hands and heart. Amazing. Join. Amazing. Join.
Dance.
Is the bloody business written for bonds?
I'm amazed and don't know what to say. I'm Carl, I'm still amazed. Green, orange.
Orange.
Blue.
Orange. Blue. Orange.
Blue.
Yellow.
Orange.
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 Orange. Magenta.
I'm amazed you know not what to say.
It is the bloody business.
11,
Two.
3, 1,
Two.
3, 1, 11.
Oh, 11.
One.
As you look at food,
Two.
four.
I'm
Four.
amazed to know not
3.
what
It
to
is
say.
the business.
4.
5, not.
6.
7, 8, 9, 9, 9, 9, 9.
I'm curious, doing this as an exercise for ensemble building or as actor training is one thing. It kind of turns into a performance when there are 30 or 40 people watching. I'm curious from Ross, from your viewpoint, if I may,
Yeah.
as a leader of this, and from the participants, how did it change doing this from when you were alone for 2 hours in the Oaks versus when we were here?
Does anyone? I'll
Not
just say off the bat for me, you guys were creating such different stuff. I mean, Luke's nodding his head. I've never seen quite so many different flavors and just endless creativity. Some of the vocal viewpoints were really amusing today.
That was awesome. I don't know who said it, but it's great.
So for me, just watching, I couldn't have been proud of you guys. I saw all of your best moments today. I saw all of the listening, all of the extraordinary responding to each other as a group, but at the same time not being afraid to, take the lead and create their own solo. I didn't feel like anyone was holding back today. I loved seeing all the change. But of course, what was it like for you guys?
Well, one thing we really noticed, the size of the room. And that changed dramatically. I mean, we were in the Oaks, and we were up top. We were above the cops, so we couldn't do any jumping. And we had certain restrictions. And then one time we wanted to jump, and we went to a room probably a quarter of the size, and just the different dynamic changes within just the size different and the architecture of a room will really change the way and what we do and the way we do it.
I speak. For me, maybe I'm just like different from them, but I didn't feel any different today than I did, and that's not like better or worse, I don't know. But I just felt the same. I didn't notice huge differences. We discussed viewpoints. Good.
And just to comment on what Will was saying about playing off the audience, that was, I think, what I was hoping would happen, and what really did play out today was that it just created this kind of infinite loop where they would keep throwing energy at you guys, you would be throwing it back with your laughter, with your responses, your enthusiasm, and they'd keep building off of that and creating new things. It was like watching a tree just grow in a day and watching all the different branches and possibilities just occur. So I thought there really was a lot of kinesthetic response. There was a lot of feedback and feed forward. It's a term that Anne Bogart uses. And we're used to hearing the term, I need some feedback on this paper, I need some feedback, but it's a feed forward as well. We can't expect you as an audience in a play or anything to be excited or interested or involved if we're not feeding forward what you're going to feed back. And I think that exchange was really happening today. Nancy?
Yes, I'm wondering, is this technique transferable to other situations where the team building?
Absolutely.
So what's an example of how this, I'm assuming all of you are actors and you're already trained into this kind of thing, but could you envision this like in Elon 101 groups or orientation groups?
That could be pretty dynamic.
Afraid of doing something that we thought was silly. We just kind of went
It was like a fine line where we just became close, even if we didn't talk with each other. Like a lot of it is silence or noises or something. And then at the breaks, we would all find a circle,
And just
like
sit.
just random, or at the beginning of class, like we would just find a circle natural.
Like most connections happen during like the open viewpoint sessions where we wouldn't, I didn't really speak to Luke very much outside of sessions, but we started like working together during open sessions, so just like walking into each other and stuff like that. And afterwards, we started talking, actually talking. So, like, I don't know, the connections were really cool to make.
Amy?
I have a question. Sorry, you're short, but sorry. No.
Katie, you're next. You're next.
I just wanted to compliment all of you as a group because there were just some really great moments. Everything was really interesting to watch. I thought the unity of the group, but there were just some great stage pictures that were kind of accidentally created, and I loved it. And as an actor, watching those moments, there were comedic moments that I don't think you guys even realized how great some of them were. Like, I was standing in the back of myself facing a wall. And I was like, what's he doing? And then someone else walks up. I think it was Mel. Someone else walks up and was like, I'm going to do that too. And it was this beautiful moment of like bonding over that action. Or